John Moschitta Jr. here, the Micro Machine Man, Blur from the Transformers, Decepticons, Terrible Testaverde from Saved by the Bell. You are watching the Canned Air Podcast with Jeremy, Randy, and Jack, and remember, you are watching it because the Canned Air Podcast is the real thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley, and what I'm bringing you this week is an episode that was recorded all the way back May 1st of 2023 with nothing short of a pop culture icon. You've probably seen him in General Hospital, appearances in A-Team, Ally McBeal, heard him in Adventure Time, Family Guy. He also played Mr. Testaverde in Saved by the Bell, but he's probably best known as one, Jim Spleen from the FedEx commercials from the 80s, Blurr from the original Transformers cartoon, and the Micro Machine Man from all those commercials in the 90s. That if you're a product of the 90s, you know who the Micro Machine Man is. We welcome actor, spokesman, singer, and the world's fastest talker, John Moschitta Jr. This week. Again, this is an episode that was recorded all the way back in 2023 when we were only focusing on the audio format. We were still recording the videos of our calls with these people, but only releasing the audio. Well, I'm going back through a bunch of stuff and wondering why I just didn't release these to begin with. I guess one big reason would be because we hadn't really figured out our setting, having our backdrops and having the background the way we'd like it to. This is a great example of one of those videos where I wasn't very proud of the background, but who cares about the background? The content's great. Conversation with John is great. He's just a great dude, as you're soon about to find out. So without any further ado, don't forget to find us on all of our socials and visit our website right here below. And other than that, here's our conversation with John Moschitta Jr. John, thank you so much for taking time to be on our show. We really appreciate it. We're big fans, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being fans. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. I wasn't doing anything anyway. I was just watching reruns on the Game Show Network, so I figured, what the hell, I might as well come over here and sit in the phone and just talk to you guys.
Oh,
wow.
This is going to be epic.
There needs to be like that little spinning circle in my brain, like processing. Processing.
Still taking it in.
An amazing talent that we've been hearing for years, but damn, it doesn't get old, man. An amazing craft you have. So excited to talk about it. But how are you today? How's your day been?
So far, so good. Can't complain. It was actually raining today. We've been having a lot, we were having drought out here in California for years.
Right.
And then we had all this rain, and then we thought it was over. And then they said it was going to rain on Thursday. And I woke up this morning and it was pouring, which is nice. We could still use the water. And then I went to the gym, and then I came home and I watched some TV, and now here we are.
All right. The highlights
of
your day. It's
a busy life,
no
I tell you. How do I cram all that stuff into one day? I don't know.
You managed, though.
I did.
All right.
Sometimes it's 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, but not today.
Well, the next hour might swing the tide there. But anyway, it's great to have you here. Looking back online, doing research, just trying to go back to your beginnings as far back as I could find, is that you grew up on Long Island, and that at age 12 you decided you wanted to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. What was it that made you want to be in the Guinness Book of World Records?
Well, every year in January they used to have the cerebral palsy telethon, and they would have it was Art James and this lady Jane Pickens who would sing, look at us, we're walking, look at us, we're talking, those of us who've never walked or talked before. And it'd be freezing cold. It was in January, and I would always go out and go door to door and collect money for cerebral palsy. And then I'd come back and I'd call the radio station, and then or the TV station, and I'd say, okay, I raised $11.42. And they'd go on and said, little John Moschitta in Uniondale, Long Island, you raised $11.42. So one day I was reading the newspaper, and it said that there was going to be a carnival at a college near my house, and it was going to be benefiting cerebral palsy, and they were setting up a Guinness booth, and anyone that broke a Guinness record, they would donate money to cerebral palsy. So I figured, well, hell, it's better than freezing my ass off in the middle of winter for $11.22.
I'd say.
So I started flipping through the book, and first I wanted to ride the roller coaster at Coney Island, but they wouldn't let me do it because the record was like 2 weeks straight, and I was 12 years old. Then the other stuff is like eating cars and swallowing lead pipes, so I wasn't going to do that. So the only other thing I could feasibly do was to try to hold my breath underwater. So we had a pool in the backyard. So all I did was just go back there, go under the water, hold my breath, came nowhere close to the record and just got a splitting headache. So I said, well, that's not going to happen. And going through the book, the only thing that didn't need anything special, I mean, I had no money to buy, rings to juggle or balls to throw or whatever. The fast talking, you didn't have to buy anything. So I figured, well, let me try that. So I also had 5 sisters, and being from Long Island and being Italian, we all talked a little bit quickly anyway. So I figured I got a little bit of a head start in there. And I did, at the time, the record was set with the To Be or Not to Be soliloquy from Hamlet. So I just locked myself in a room. And when you're 12 years old, you'll do something 20 hours a day and not even think twice about it.
Right.
So I just did it over and over and over and over again until I finally got it up to a point where it could break the record. So that was what prompted me. Unfortunately, when I showed up, there was no one there to verify that kind of records. There was only physical records, like the most hot dogs eaten, the most balls juggled, the most plates spinning, that kind of stuff. So I didn't get the record at that when I was 12, but it was something I just kept doing, pretty much told to shut up most of my life. And then someday someone paid me money. So it was great.
Incredible, especially at age 12, taking the time to really hone that craft. And that's what I wanted to ask you. What was it that you did exactly that got you to speed up the way you talk? Like, I can't imagine. I mean, was it just repeating over and over? Was it simply just repetition, or was there more to it? Like, maybe I can eliminate a syllable here or there, or maybe pronounce a word a little bit differently. Like, how is it done?
Just adjust the pattern of your talking.
Well, for the record, you can't. There's no leaving words out. There's no doing any of that. In fact, when I would go for the record, if you screw up a word in a sentence, you have to go back to the beginning of the sentence and start that sentence over again.
Wow.
So they do have very strict rules about that.
Okay.
I just wanted to, I was always kind of a publicity whore, even at 12 years old. I was always in plays and community theater and doing whatever. Always wanted my name in the newspaper for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured it'd be a great thing. It would be good because it would raise money for charity, and it'd be great because I'd probably get my picture in the paper. So it was just at that time, just repeating to be and not to be. That is a question whether to noble and munches, the things that I was of our fortunate comes and see troubles by posing and the like sleep, by chance, dream out there, so for in that sleep, that's to become we have suffered the small illness, give its bullets. And doing that over and over and over again. And then, of course, bringing my sisters in, making them sit in the bedroom, locking them in the room, and me doing it, and then them saying, what did I say? What did I say? To make sure that I was being understandable.
Right.
Of course, it was Shakespeare, and they had no friggin' idea what I was saying, but I like to torture them, so it was a good way.
So can you, like when somebody, let's say, holds up a cue card with something you've never seen, are you able to just out of the gate launch into it? Do you need to spend time with the content?
Well, I prefer to spend time with it, but
Sure.
I have, I've done over 1,000 interviews all around the world, on different various TV shows and whatever. And there's always somebody wants to throw something at you,
Right.
Like there's actually a thing online right now that's been viewed over 100 million times, where I was being interviewed by a guy in Boston, and he hands me the Bad album, the Michael Jackson Bad album. And he says, how fast can you do Bad? And the words are on the back of the album. So I just did Bad fast. And, so people do that. It's a guy in England wanted me to do Vogue, the Madonna song. And I had never even heard the song. So, and I'm looking at, there was the Greta Garbo and Monroe Dietrich and DiMaggio,
Right.
And so I prefer to look at it beforehand, but I can do it. All my jobs, almost 100%, I read off a teleprompter. Because especially in advertising, they will make the stupidest decisions for the stupidest reasons. And if I memorize something, it gets in my brain. It just burns in my brain, and you can't do any changes to it.
Right.
But if it's on a teleprompter, you can change it all day long. Even if it's just one word, it will screw up my brain. So I tell them, I know what it's going to be like. You're going to have 20 people in the studio, and everybody's going to have an opinion. And someone's going to say, I don't like that word. I don't like this word. Said you can change it all you want if you put it on a teleprompter.
Okay.
So
you can read as fast as you talk then.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Back in the day when I first started, before computers and that kind of stuff in the dark ages, they had paper teleprompters that were like in another room, and stuff would be typed on papers that had like movie slats on the side, and it would feed through, and the camera would shoot down and film it. And I would go so fast, I would jam the machines. I set a couple of them on fire. Then they also had acetone with that they would handwrite, and it would side mount on the camera, but that didn't turn fast. If it turned as fast as I needed, it was too loud. All you heard was so they would have to grab the acetone, and someone would have to run backwards across the studio with the acetone to keep the words up. Now, of course, it's all done on computer, and it can go much faster than I can go, so it's not a problem anymore. But it used to be fun. I put quite a few jams and fires in my day.
That's amazing.
Wow. Now, when you like sit down, say in your leisure with like a novel, do you burn through it in like 20 minutes, or like is it just like
actually I am a really slow reader.
Okay.
I really like to enjoy just taking my time. I try to do I did an infomercial one time for a speed reading thing where they had me against, a speed reader I was reading War and Peace and he was reading War and Peace. And at the end of the minute, I had read 2 pages and he had read 60 pages or whatever it was. And they gave me the course to try to learn how to do it. And I just wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't fun. Plus you got paper cuts doing this all the time. So I just said, no, I'd rather just take my time. And, because a lot of times, even when I read a book, you got so many other things going on in your head. It's hard just to zero in on one thing. And then all of a sudden there's a character and you're like, I don't even remember who the hell it is. You got to go back in the book and look. So I really take my time when I'm reading.
I'm the same way, which has really transitioned me over to audiobooks because for some reason they sink in better. When I sit down with the book, I'll sit there and read a page, and then when I go to reflect on it, I can't remember a damn thing.
Exactly.
And I go back and read it again. I'm like, I'm just going to get the audiobook.
Well, I like to read. I read a lot of biographies, and if it's someone like I read Katharine Hepburn's biography, and it's impossible, or at least it was impossible for me to read it without hearing her. So it was like listening to the audiobook. You're sitting there and everything is Katharine Hepburn talking about whatever she's talking about. So it just, so that makes the book more enjoyable too for me.
Maybe you should record the audiobook for just the way you were doing it there. I mean, I'd listen to that.
Yeah, I'll do Carol Channing's life story, I did several of charity events with Carol Channing, which, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even know who she is, but she was a fantastic Broadway star and just a character beyond belief. And I always say it'd be funny to hear her sing Light My Fire, because she'd be like, you know that I would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, I couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. And of course,
I was so hoping we were going to get to hear.
Katharine Hepburn would do Vogue. Greta Garbo and Monroe, Dietrich and DiMaggio. Vogue.
This needs to be an album. This should all be an album. I would buy it. You have your first 3 customers are right here. That's incredible. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I haven't heard that on any of your other interviews so far. But before you were discovered as a fast talker, you were already working within the entertainment business. What got you interested in acting and the business before, fast talking ever came along?
I don't know. I always wanted to act when I was a kid. When I was 5 years old, I used to put shows on for the neighborhood. Once I was old enough to read the paper, I would read casting notices for community theaters. I used to do the summer theater programs, where they put you in a trailer and take you from park to park and do stuff for the kids. And of course, in school, I was always in all the plays and all that. It just was, I guess I just was really, just an attention hoe my whole life.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. One thing I read online that was very exciting is that you spent a part of your career working right here in Columbus, Ohio, doing a few different things. I was wondering if you could tell us about your time in Columbus, what you were doing.
Well, Columbus, as was one of the biggest test markets in the country. There were 10 cities that when companies wanted to try new products, they would try them in these cities, and Columbus was one of them. Well, Warner Communications and Warner Brothers and Warner Cable had this new system, which was the world's first 2-way interactive cable system. And it was called Cube, Qube. It was this kind of cube looking thing, and actually had 30 channels of television back in the day when the average place had, even cable only had like 10 stations.
Right.
So we went on the air December 1st, 1977, with 11 hours of live programming a day.
Wow.
In Columbus, Ohio, over there on Olentangy River Road.
Oh, that's like 5 minutes from where we're at right now. I know exactly where you're talking about.
It was right next door to the Olentangy River Inn. There used to be, I think it was like an appliance store or something, and they turned it into a TV studio. It was where Nickelodeon started. Nickelodeon was starting at the same time, and they used those studios. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first shows on Nickelodeon. I had my own show called Nickel Flicks, and it was on 3 times a day, 7 days a week. It was one of the first shows on and the first show canceled. But it was canceled not because of me. What it was a series of all the old, they needed to find something to fill the airs for 24 hours a day. So they bought all these old cliffhangers, and I would do I was like a Sydney Greenstreet character in a rattan chair with a Panama hat, and I would sit there and say stupid shit in between segments of these cliffhangers. Well, the problem was they were billing themselves as the non-violent network for children. Well, if you've ever watched any of these cliffhangers, what makes them cliffhangers is someone's getting shot, someone's going off a cliff, someone's blowing up. So they decided it didn't fit the theme of the station, so it went bye-bye. But while I was there, I managed to produce several shows and host several shows, and it was a great training ground because I got to be on TV every day.
Sure.
And the way it worked, people at home had the box, and you could ask them I could ask you like an individual question. Like I could say, Randy, do you think I should get a haircut? And you could touch a button, yes or no, and then I would know. Or I could just ask a general question, okay, everyone, should I get a haircut? Everybody would touch, and then it would tell me the percentages of who said yes, who said no, whatever. We had shows like a ripoff of the Gong Show called The Talent Show, where people at home were the gongers. If they wanted the act to continue, they pushed button 1. If they wanted it to get gonged, they pushed button 2. If more than 50% of the audience said no for longer than 10 seconds, the people got gonged.
That's so very ahead of its time.
Yeah, that's like American Idol stuff.
It was, the computers to run this system took up 2 warehouses. Now you can do it on your laptop. But it was literally 2 warehouses. And on our first night, we had people from literally everyone, because there was no satellite feeds and stuff like that. So everyone coming through for press or anything, everybody wanted to see this 2-way interactive cable system. So we had, world leaders and every actor, actress, anybody out on tour for anything. Everybody was coming over. And on opening night, which was December 1st, 1977, one of the shows we were on was called Going, Going, Gone. And it was an auction show, and people could bid at home. And the first item we auctioned was the governor, who was Jim Rhodes at the time. Governor Jim Rhodes came on with his putter, and he auctioned his putter. And the auction is going crazy, and people are bidding like nuts, and it sold for several $1,000s. And I was the producer of the show, and all the presidents of Warner Brothers were there, and the whole thing. And so I get off, the show's off, and I go and I call the person, and I said, "Hi, this is John Moschitta from Cube." And the guy says, "Cube, I'm getting mine Tuesday." So I said, "Okay, thank you, just checking." And I call everybody. I got some good news and bad news. The good news is you're still giving the money to the charity, because now you have to, because he was donating the money to the charity. The bad news is the man who bought it doesn't have the system installed yet. So there was a little glitch on opening night, but it was our little secret. They were like, "You're never telling anybody." I'm like, now 45 years later, I don't think they're going to come after me. I don't think.
As a SWAT team just busting through the window.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, they're right down the road.
If it suddenly goes to snow, you know what happened. It's the Warner police.
If that does happen, tell our families we love them, John. Okay?
Yes.
Anything, guys?
Am I good to
What?
Transformers? Yeah.
Well, I want to touch
Okay,
on a few
sorry.
other things really quick before we get there. No, you're fine.
He's chomping at the bit for the
Okay,
Transformers.
What's going to happen, Randy? Calm down. Okay, so when it comes to the evening where your talent was discovered, I've heard this story. I know you've told it a million times. But for our listeners' sake, would you mind telling how you were discovered as a fast talker?
Well, I was at a party. At this point, I already was in the Guinness book because when I was working in Columbus, Ohio, I went on a show called Columbus Then and Now, or as we used to call it, Columbus Dead and Gone.
They're going to love you on this podcast.
We could have, we knew exactly how many people were watching at all times. And sometimes it'd be like 2 people, no people. And then we had one lady would come on every Friday to do this thing on presidential lifestyles. And she would tell you, the secrets of James Madison, which everyone was just, of course, longing for. And we would watch it. We called it Vera Jean Trot and Plunging because we just watch people changing the channel. But on that show, I did break the record. So that's when I officially got the record, was when I was in Columbus working on that show. So after 2 years in Columbus, it was enough. It's time to go. So I moved to LA. I was at a friend's house at a party one night, and another friend of mine who was from New York and also talked very quickly was trying to pick up a Valley girl, and he was just going at it. And she looked at him and said, like, "Oh my God, you must be like the world's fastest talker." And he goes, "No, as a matter of fact, this person is." And I came over and I did, to be or not to be or something. And a man walked over. He says, "Hi, my name is Alex Mamasanov. I'm producer of That's Incredible. And That's Incredible. I want to put you on the show." And at the time, I was a regular on a PBS show, considering myself a very serious actor. And I didn't think it would be good to appear on a show where I followed a man who swallowed a 30-foot python. So I, respectfully declined. Sure. But I gave him my number, and they kept calling and calling and calling. And finally, the acting strike came along, and they called me and made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And I went on the show thinking, well, whatever, who's going to see it? But I sent out a bunch of flyers I was in a play at the time, a production of Mad Woman of Chaillot. And I sent out a bunch of flyers that say, what would you say to a man that speaks over 500 words a minute? And then you open up the flyer, it says, "That's incredible, here for yourself. It aired on Thanksgiving 1980. Or see him in person at the McGaw Theater in A Mad Woman of Chaillot." And I sent that to everybody I could think of, hundreds of them, to ad agencies and whatever else. Some of the ad agencies, I sent proposals for commercials and, using me. And one of the agencies I sent it to was Alley and Gargano in New York. And they assigned the writer. They were looking for how to get for this new company called Federal Express, and how to get them to get across the idea of fast, fast, fast. So they assigned, I had written a thing for MCI, which used to be a long distance phone company, which no longer exists.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Which was basically, my long distance phone calls used to sound like this. "Hi, Mike, I can't stand the cell phone very long. My telephone bills are too expensive. I miss you. I love you. Goodbye." But now I have MCI and I can talk like a regular person. So they said, "Well, watch him. You just watch this guy and see whatever." So they watched me, and they came up with the idea for Federal Express instead, which of course was much better for me. And I went to New York. We shot it the day after Reagan was shot, because they were like, "Oh, we don't know if we're going to, if he dies, it's going to be a day of mourning. We can't shoot a commercial, and we're going to have to close everything down." Luckily, he didn't die. Right. Or at least, I guess, for the purpose of the commercial. Luckily, he didn't die. I did work with him years later, and he didn't even know what his name was, but it was very strange. But so we did that commercial. It was amazing. You talk about like overnight success. Right. That aired on Thanksgiving 1980. By the following Tuesday, I was booked on The Tonight Show, The Merv Griffin Show, Tony Tennille had a talk show, The Mike Douglas Show. I began negotiating a talent contract with ABC, and negotiating the Federal Express commercial in 2 days. Jeez. I mean, every time I picked up the phone, "Hi, this is Otter Elaine, this is blah, blah, blah." It was the difference of night and day. In the beginning, they would only let me talk about being the fast talker. But once the Federal Express commercial started airing, then I could talk about being an actor. So, which was because that was my fear, was that they're only going to think I'm the fast talker all the time. I'm going to be the one trick pony, which, I fought my whole career, because even though I've done a million different things, all they think of is, well, you're the guy who talks fast.
Right.
That is so incredible. And what an explosion of just, opportunity and attention all at once. Like you said, the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, right?
Yes.
And Merv Griffin, all these other opportunities. Just thinking about myself in that situation, not only, I'd be very excited, but I'd be at the same time, I think, a little bit overwhelmed with nerves.
Definitely.
Was there anything like that come over you?
I would say, in a perpetual state of just hyper fear. And I had, when I first moved out to LA, one of my jobs, I was run over by a drunk driver when I was roller skating in Venice. I fractured my back and broke all my ribs, and I was in bed for 3 months. And my first job, when I got out of that, a friend of mine worked for the manager of Dom DeLuise, and he had just gotten back from shooting a movie, Fatso. And he needed someone for a couple of hours a day to help him answer fan mail. So my friend said, if I got the person for you, I got to get him out of my house. He's allowed to leave. He has been bedridden for 3 months. He just got the okay to go out for a couple of hours at a time. So I started working for Dom DeLuise, and then I ended up moving into his house and being the cook and nanny for a year, first for Michael David and Peter. And because he was filming other movies, and his wife was on the road with Dick Van Dyke in a production of Music Man. So it was like me and the kids in the house, and me being the cook and nanny and doing the whole thing. And he dealt with everything like a piece of cake, except when he was going on the Tonight Show, he would be like such a maniac and so nervous and trying to come up with a bit. And what am I going to do? And just so when I get booked on the Tonight Show, all I'm thinking is, shit, if Dom DeLuise is freaking out over this, what am I going to do?
Right.
The very first day I went there, I was, of course, was going to be the last guest out. And so I was the last person in the makeup chair. And in the main makeup room, there's several chairs. And then off to the side, there's a private makeup room. He gets his makeup done upstairs in his dressing room. And then he comes down at the last minute and gets his hands made up. So if he puts his hands by his face, they're in a different color.
Right.
And he walked in the makeup room, and I said, oh, hi, how are you? I'm John Moschitta. I'm really looking forward to doing the show. He was as pleasant as could be, walked into his dressing room. I turn around, and my makeup person is packing up the makeup. And I said, what are you doing? He said, well, you just blew it, baby. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, he's extremely superstitious, and he does not want to see or meet the first-time guests ever. So you're getting bumped. He says, he goes, I'll finish your makeup if you want, but I'm telling you, you're getting bumped. And I was like, oh, all right, if you say so. And sure enough, in the opening credits, they said, and the fast-talking John Moschitta, maybe.
Oh, man.
And there was a show on the air, a TV version of Private Benjamin, and the woman, I'm trying to remember her name now, it was just in my head, it went out, who played the Goldie Hawn role on TV, Lorna Patterson. She was very good, but she was out there before I was supposed to go out, and she was bombing. I mean, this was bombing. And I could have so livened up the show, but he was not going to have it. He had his superstition. He was not calling me out. And I proceeded to get bumped like the first 4 times I went over there. But the good news was, if they say your name in the beginning, they have to pay you.
Oh, hey.
Well, hey, it's
So
an easy
by the
paycheck,
time I
but
finally
damn.
got on, I think I got on the 5th time. And then that was fine. Then I was on there again, but that time was finally the 5th time. And that was so weird, because you're sitting there and, everything looks big on TV.
Right.
So first I didn't realize his desk was like literally 18 inches from the curtain where you come on, and it looks big on TV.
Yeah.
So I kind of come out, and you acknowledge the audience, and I turned and I'm going to bound over to his desk. Well, I walked right past him, and I went, I pulled myself back. sat down, and then you're sitting there and you're literally 3 inches from the man, and he's hitting his pencil and doing all the stuff that you've watched him do your whole entire life. And your mouth is moving and you're answering questions, but your brain is going, that's fucking Johnny Carson. That's Johnny Carson. Sitting right next to Johnny Carson. Oh my God, that's Johnny Carson. So it was a very surreal experience.
I can't imagine.
The first time I was on the Merv Griffin show, I said to the stage manager, this is what happened on the Tonight Show. I walked right past his desk. It didn't look that bad when you watch it on TV because it felt a lot worse. I said, so would you mind, before you let the audience in, can I go out and see the set and how far it is and blah, blah, blah. He says, oh, sure, come on, I'll show it to you. We go out and it was kind of a V shape. Okay. And you came out here and you faced the audience over there, and then you went around, and that's where the desk area was. So plenty of room to do that. So they introduced me. I walk out, I acknowledge the audience, I turn around. Why this guy didn't tell me Merv comes over to the curtain to meet you, I don't know. But as we got to the point, I was not expecting him. He was not expecting me. So we came to this point, we went, ah! And just poor Merv, the whole thing was like, bah, 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 bah. The whole interview, just his heart was pounding the whole time. And David Brenner was the other guest. He was sitting next to me. Merv was not listening to a word. How old were you? When did you teach yourself how to do the fast talking? Well, I was 12. How old were you? Well, I was 12. Merv, were you young then? Yeah, Merv, I was 12. And then he starts there's this thing called simultaneous talking, where you say something that another person is saying at the same time. And it's freaky for people that are really good at it. Merv Griffin is not good at it. Or wasn't. He's not good at very much anymore now because he's dead. But so I'm answering a question and he's doing, and David Brenner leans over and says, is he having a stroke? Whatever. So we go to commercial, we come back, he explains what he was doing, whatever. And then, of course, the next guest, it's me, David Brenner. What's the next logical person to have? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rosa Parks.
Oh my God. Wow.
It was like, who booked this show? I don't know, but
wow.
He came out, David Brenner and I said to her, back of the couch.
Oh my gosh, come on.
Oh shit.
I accidentally punched the mic on that one.
Yeah. Poor Rosa. She was very, very sweet. I can't believe they're doing like in Texas or Florida, one of those places. They're now allowed in the history books to talk about Rosa Parks, but they're not allowed to say she was black.
Seriously, is that right?
Seriously, she had to take all mentions of her being black out of the book. This is what some of our states are coming to now.
Jeez. Wow. I can't. When I hear that name, oh man, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think of her, from the history books. You don't think of them being anywhere close to alive, like in your, close to your lifespan. Does that make sense?
Larger than life.
Larger than life. Yeah. And then to have them sitting right next to you. Wow.
Well, people think the civil rights movement was so long ago. It wasn't that long ago,
No.
And it's, of course, still going on. And people who think that there's equality everywhere, like our Supreme Court, who we don't need the Voting Protection Act anymore because there's no racism anymore. Everyone's equal.
Right.
Okay. Well, I don't know what planet you're living on, but you haven't clearly been out of the house or turned on a television in years.
Living in a bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
My God, and that's just a handful, I'm sure, of many experiences you've had over the years as a result of, your acting and your ability to talk so fast. It's incredible. Even your own board game, Motormouth board game.
The Motormouth board game. Yep.
What other commercial character had a board game? I'm hard pressed to think of any. I mean, you kind of crossed the line of just being a popular character to being a pop culture icon at that point. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm often referred to that because I also did pre-recorded book material. Like I did 10 classics in 10 minutes, where I did Moby Dick in a minute, Gone with the Wind in a minute, that kind of stuff as a stocking stuff for Christmas. Right. And that was followed up with 10-minute University, which was 4 years of traditional college in 10 minutes. Came with a little teeny mini diploma. And yeah, I was always kind of creating things. I got to work all over the world, and I would kind of do anything that was thrown at me. And I had some really good partners on these. They came up with, like, the guy, my partners on the board game were fantastic. And they actually, the one guy, it was in the Guinness book for the world's fastest backwards talker.
Oh, Jesus.
So
I
we
couldn't do
actually
that
they were
slow.
developing a show for the two of us at NBC for a kids show, which that's a whole nother story, which I wouldn't even get into. That was like one of those horrible horror stories, network meetings where just everything goes in the toilet in the first 3 seconds and there's no place to hide. But yeah. Dave, his name is David Fuhrer. The other partner was Mark Setta Ducati. He owns a toy company. His father owned a toy company. He took over the toy company. So they came up with the idea for this game. We developed it. We wrote all the material, designed it, did whatever, and it was put out by Tiger Games, and was available in the discount bin for $1.29 the following Christmas. It came out, unfortunately, the worst year for retail for toys. It came out and everything, though every news story was about how none of the toys, Toys R Us is going to go bankrupt. Nobody's buying toys, blah, 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 blah. So it was not a big success. It was more successful in Europe. In Europe, it was called Motor Mouth here, but in Europe, it was called Tongue Tangle, and that's still popular.
Still popular.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like Mousetrap for them or something.
Yes.
That's
It must be the
incredible,
plastic lips that you pass around.
Yeah, I'd like to get a copy of that just to have on the shelf. I saw the commercial online, and it looked like it would be a lot of fun to play with. Maybe we could play it on the show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
let's do it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Record it.
it's all tongue twisters.
Yeah.
And you pick a card, and it's a tongue twister. There's a secret timer. You don't know how much time is on it. And it's like hot potato with the lips. You have to take it, read the thing, and pass the lips to somebody else. And then they got to read a card, and whoever is holding the lips, when the timer runs out, has to go back, and you roll dice, and there's a board, and you got to get to the end. And it's a fun party game. It gets everyone screaming and yelling, so it's really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find that on eBay.
Definitely fun. Yeah.
That'd be fun to play for the show for sure. Another thing I read really quick. I've got to read this before I let Randy open the Transformer gates. And there's sometimes you read stuff online and you don't know if it's true or not. There's been many times I've taken what I've seen online as gospel, and then people sitting where you are like, oh, hang on, buddy, not true. Is your mustache in the Smithsonian?
Yes.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
They I don't know if it's on display anymore, but they decided they didn't want me to have a mustache for the Federal Express commercial. Now, I had a fake mustache made when I was actually living at Dom DeLuise's house. Back in the day, when you did commercial resumes, it wasn't just one picture. You had to have like several different characters on the back. So my front picture was a guy with half a mustache, looking disappointed in the mirror, having just shaved half a mustache. And then half the pictures in the back didn't have a mustache, and half the pictures had a mustache, because facial hair is always very questionable in commercials.
Right.
So I wanted to have all the bases covered. And Dom said to me, well, what's going to happen? As soon as you have your mustache shaved, someone's going to want the mustache. So if you don't have enough time to grow it back, you're going to be sunk. So let me take you to my guy. His name was Ziggy, very popular. He did all of Burt Reynolds' hair pieces and all that stuff. And he'll make you a mustache out of your own mustache hair, and then you'll have this mustache. So I had this mustache, and they wanted me no mustache for Federal Express. And then I got there, and they said, you know what? We like the mustache. So I said, well, I happen to have it with me right here.
Nice.
So I took it out, and I pasted it on, and I used that mustache in the commercial. So that's not my real mustache in the Federal Express commercial. And that mustache was sent to the Smithsonian. It was in a room with the Fonz's jacket and Archie Bunker's chair and all that kind of stuff. They had, I did a media wall for the Smithsonian. That's how that got in there. I did a media wall. They were doing a thing on Federal Express. So I did the media wall for them. And then I told them the story about the mustache. They said, oh, we'd love the mustache. So I sent them the mustache.
Incredible.
Crazy.
Hey, who else can say that? Who else can say
No.
that?
I need a mustache guy.
I can't think of anyone else who has facial hair in the Smithsonian. Maybe I'm wrong, and I wonder why Cesar Romero didn't use that same mustache technique when he was doing Batman. It seemed like it would have been a
Yeah.
lot easier than paint
That was a
over it.
little while before they
Oh,
didn't have that technology
Okay, that's
then.
true. That's true. Okay. How awesome. Randy, go for it, bro.
All right. So I got to talk to you about Transformers, because one of the things I remember about you, other than Micro Machines, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but is Blur from Transformers. So, and I believe his first appearance was in the movie, correct?
Yes.
So,
Well, actually, no. Yeah, the answer to that question is yes and no.
okay.
We did a bunch of the TV shows, but they hadn't aired yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
all
movie
right.
came out first, so that's why you see him in the movie first. But I had already recorded some TV shows.
Gotcha. Okay. So as far as like the audition process, did they reach out to you, or was it something you auditioned for?
They definitely reached out to me first,
Nice.
and they said, hey, do you want to do this character? I didn't know anything about what the show was or anything. I mean, what didn't exist. So I said, yeah, sure. What the hell, Once again, media whore, whatever. I'm there. It's a check. Okay.
Shall I dance? Sing you a song?
Yes. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience. Who knew it was going to turn into what it turned into? I mean, just
Right.
a couple of months ago, I did another one of those conventions where you sit there and people come out of the woodwork and they bring boxes of shit for you to sign and sign autographs and tell you how you were there, you were their whole childhood, and it's an ego boost. There's a scene in the movie Soap where Sally Field is feeling depressed and she puts on a disguise, and Whoopi Goldberg takes her to the mall in New Jersey, and then she takes off the disguise and everybody starts recognizing her, and she gets her ego boost and she's all okay. So these things, that's what going to these conventions are for me. I mean, it's just such a, you don't think you do these things, you don't even know people watch it, it makes an impression, they do whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
People tell you these stories about how this changed their life and that changed their life, and it's wonderful to have that effect on people, and it's really nice to have the opportunity to hear people tell you that, because you wouldn't know.
Right.
Right.
Now, being an actor, did you know when you recorded the lines for the movie, were you able to meet and kind of interact with some of the other, because I mean, there was Robert Stack, Leonard Nimoy, I think Orson
Welles, Judd
pre-recorded.
Nelson.
Yeah.
Like Orson Welles was all done separately. Some of the people were there for a mass recording. As I said, the daytime, the animated TV one, that was great cast.
Right.
That was Scatman Crothers and Dick Gautier and Roger C. Carmel and Frank Welker, and I mean, just amazing. And because I was working so much and literally flying all over the world, I didn't get to do a lot of the group sessions. So when I did, I was like thrilled, because it was like playing, to be in the room with these guys,
Right.
all, animation icons in their own right, just being there with them. And then when it came to do the movie, I was in New York, and they said, you should come back for the filming. And I was like, well, can I I'm going to be back in a couple of days. No, you want to be here for this one. And so I went back, and there were several people there. So that was, it wasn't just the regular. I was the only one, and well, Frank Welker too, from the TV version that did the movie. Everybody else got replaced by, Robert Stack. We went out. They sent Robert Stack and I out on a press tour, and we went to different cities, except for the bigger cities like Chicago and San Francisco and New York, where they have so many shows, they could fill them with two different people.
Right.
And then we ended up in New York, because that's where they were having the world premiere for the movie. And the movie was produced by this company, Sunbow. And they kept telling us, we had to keep telling everybody it was a family movie, a family movie, a family movie. No violence, no violence. And you don't know what, we hadn't seen it. You read the lines, you don't know what's going on. It's not, you don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know it's going to have this acid rock world, planets blowing up all over the place. So, we're on there telling on every show about how this show for the whole family. And then we go to the premiere, and Robert Stack and his wife Rosemary are sitting next to me. And the movie starts. She's like, "Oh my God, what have we done? We're going to damage little children all over the world. They're going to come and see this violent movie with this." But it worked out okay.
Yeah, like the first 10 minutes was killing off all the G1 Transformers. So.
Yeah.
And then also you got to reprise your role in 2008 for another rendition of Transformers. What was that like, kind of revisiting that character?
Well, it was great. I was glad that they decided to keep using me. Because a lot of the other characters were characters from the original, but they were just replaced with different people. So I was very happy that they used me. Of course, the last episode I went in there, I was compressed into a box and jettisoned off into space, considered to be dead. So that wasn't nice. I was like, does that mean I'm not in the next version?
Oh, man. That's
good.
Yep.
Micro Machine Man. We got to touch on Micro Machine Man. This is where I know you from. I loved those
Introducing
commercials.
the most miniature motorcade micro machines ever, all smaller than a nut. Not this one. Remember, it doesn't say micro machines. It's not the real thing.
Oh my God. You know what's funny, John, is I don't like Hot Wheels. I'm not into cars or anything. But you know what I did love? And I still have on my shelf over here are Micro Machines. They were fucking awesome.
Yes,
and you had such a huge part, if not the biggest part, in making them seem just absolutely incredible. So bravo to you. But I mean,
Thank you.
The second time that you have a commercial character who is iconic. You know what I mean? Aside from the FedEx Man, was there a time doing this where you kind of realized, like, oh shit, this isn't just another gig. Like, this character is catching on with people?
Well, we went, it was only supposed to be one commercial. We did the first commercial, to try it out. And they had such a response from it that they started doing. I ended up doing 125 commercials, Micro Machine commercials.
Damn.
They ran in 37 countries. We did different versions we'd fly me to England every year, and we'd do different versions because they don't drive, they motor. They don't get gas, they get petrol. It's not the trunk and the hood, it's the boot and the bonnet. So I would have to go and I would do basically the same commercials, just change the words. And when you get recognized in the Cairo airport as the Micro Machine Man, something's working here. Something's
There's
going
your
on.
sign. Yeah.
Well, it was the #1 boys' toy in the world.
Yeah.
When they stopped using me, the toy tanked so quickly. The advertising agency is really a screwy agency. And the Galoob toys that made Micro Machines, Mr. and Mrs. Galoob founded the company, and they were really good at picking toys and doing whatever. And then they retired, and their son David took over, and he not so good at picking toys. But Micro Machines used to keep saving the company. So they decided to kick him off the board of directors. And then they were going to get rid of everybody that had anything to do with anything when he was around. And they hired all new PR people and promotions people. And a lot of them came from a competing toy company whose motto was, you can't sell toys to kids with adults in the commercial. So their first mission was to get rid of their most successful character, the Micro Machine.
Yeah.
What?
And I got a phone call on Christmas Eve from the ad agency that I had worked with for 5 years, because the way it works, they take all the toys to Toy Fair in New York in February. So you shoot all the commercials in January, and then they put them together. They take them to Toy Fair, and if something sells, then they use the commercial, and if it doesn't sell, they just chuck the commercial. So they had to let me know. They had a 14-day cancellation from when I was supposed to, film if they weren't picking up the contract, and that happened to turn out to be Christmas Eve. The reason they waited to the last minute was the ad agency was trying to convince the toy company, you're crazy getting rid of this guy. They had all the commercials written, all that other stuff, but they fired me, and that was that. So
what the fuck? That is
Yeah,
crazy.
no, it was nuts. It was nuts. Now, if you go back in when I was doing it, they had entire aisles in Toys R Us with Micro Machines.
Oh
Now they have
yeah.
like a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit, a couple of little things there. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's the wonders. I used to do Minute Rice commercials, and the lady, they had commercials laid out for 17 years, what I was going to be doing in this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And the lady who was head of the creative group was married to a very rich gentleman. She was pregnant. The day we did our last shoot, which ended up being, I didn't realize it was going to be the last shoot, but the last shoot we did, she had to leave because, the car was coming to pick her up to take her to the hospital to have her appointment baby. And she was going to come back after a couple of months and decided she wanted to stay home. So they disbanded the creative group and started a new creative group, which of course felt they had to come up with their own way to sell the rice. So they fired me. Meanwhile, they targeted 10 cities to overcome Uncle Ben's. Within 3 months of my commercials being on the air, they had overtaken all 10 of those cities and then continued to grow and was not selling more rice than they've ever sold in their lives. But, we have to come up with our own thing. So they did a moratorium. They took all Minute Rice ads off the air for 6 months. And then they replaced me with a gray background and a box of rice. So this is what they came up with. And back in the toilet, they lost all the market share that they had gained.
Jesus.
But
I feel like I'd have a good chance in advertising. I think I'd do pretty damn well because these just seem like idiotic choices. Like,
don't.
I have a friend.
Right.
I have a friend who used to who worked in advertising and really got up to like almost running one of the world's biggest agencies, because every time she got hired, the first thing she did was get her next job. She started calling all these people, telling them, I'm at so-and-so now, and I'm doing blah, 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 blah. She'd make everybody else do all the work. And she'd just try to get and then she'd get the next job and the next job and the next job. And she didn't know how to do shit. But she ended up running the world because she knew how to get a job. So it worked out great for her. But the whole I don't know if it's as bad now as it was then. It used to be just crazy. I mean, 9 million people would show up and everybody have an opinion, and it just would take forever. That was the nice thing about Federal Express. Joe Settlemeyer didn't take crap from advertising people, and in fact, he banned most of them from the sets.
Understandable.
So when we went to film the commercial, there was nobody there from the advertising agency the first day. And I walked in, and they originally had 14 scenes in 30 seconds with me saying like 3 words at a time. And I had never met him. I had heard he was difficult or whatever. But 7 o'clock in the morning, I walk up, and first thing out of my mouth is, "Can I talk to you about the script?" And dead silence. Everyone just froze, like, "Oh my God, what?" He said, "What about the script?" I said, "Well, it's not really going to be funny to hear me say 3 words fast. What's funny is if I say a bunch of words fast." And they were setting up for the boardroom scene. And he said, "Well, like, what would you like to say?" And I said, "Well, like in the boardroom scene, how many people do we have around the table?" And he said, 9. So I pointed to the first 9 people, asked them their names. And I said, instead of just saying, "Thanks for taking this meeting," I thought I'd say something like, "Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. In conclusion, Jim, Bill, Bob, Carl, Fred, Lodo, Get and Ted, business is business. In order to get something done, you got to do something. In order to do something, you got to get to work. So let's get to work. Thanks for taking this meeting." And he said, "I think that will work." And
nice.
We became best buddies, shot the commercial. We had 2 scenes left. We were on the Pittsburgh's Perfect scene, and he shoots with an extremely wide angle lens. He's on the table so literally like this on top of you. And he's very precise about how he wants things. And if you see his commercials, that's why they're so funny, because they're just perfect the way he does it.
Right.
Sure.
And my opening line was, "Pete, you did a bang up job. I'm putting you in charge of Pittsburgh." And Pete is sitting next to me, and he's got a wine glass here. And he wants the wine glass just to hit the table when it's time for him to talk and him to go, "Pittsburgh's perfect." Well, this guy couldn't coordinate the wine glass and whatever. It took 65 takes. He was screaming at him, "All you gotta say is fucking Pittsburgh's perfect." So we didn't finish the commercial the first day. Now they were filming other commercials the next day as well. So we had to come back and finish that commercial. We knew we were doing something special because we walked in and the suits had arrived. There was everybody taking credit for the commercial. Everybody from the ad said, "Well, when I suggested this idea," and blah, blah, doing whatever else. And the last scene we did was me sitting at the desk on the phone with, Dave, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? David's a deal with Don. If it's a deal with Dick, Dick, it's a deal with David. If it's a deal with Doc. And in the middle of it, I back up and a package comes across. So I do it, a back up, an envelope comes across. Works out perfectly. Okay, let's go home. You know what? I didn't like that. Let's try that. Can we do the tube, the small tube? So we do it again, small tube. Well, I didn't like that. Can we do a little bigger box? And now everybody's got to have an opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did it 24 times without me making a mistake with different things. Sometimes the take wasn't good because you saw the guy's hands or, whatever. But the small box, the big box, the envelope, the tube, the whatever. And Joe Settlemeyer says to me, what are you, a fucking machine? Don't you ever make a mistake? I said, you want a mistake? I'll give you a mistake the next take. So I said, David's a dork with Dick, Don, and Duck. And that's the take he put in the commercial. The first time I saw the commercial, I called him. He goes, John, it's our little secret. He always wanted to call people Load and Dork. And none of the network censors would let him do that in a commercial. So in the conference room, we have Jim, Bill, Bob, Carl, Fred, Load, Dork, Adolf, and Ted. And then on the phone, I say, David's a dork with Dick, Dave, and Duck. So he got them in there. Then they were going to pull it. Then they were going to yank, because I told that story on the Today Show. They were going to yank the commercial. And then everyone said, what are you, crazy? It's been on the air for months. Nobody's complained. Nobody even noticed.
Man, these ad people are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And they're probably listening. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so cruel, but damn, I mean, what kind of decisions are these?
No, everybody's cover your ass, cover your ass, cover your ass. I did a Burger King.
I'm sorry, but then it also seems where, like, when there's a good idea on the table, then everyone changes like with the wind, and everyone wants their finger in that pie too. Like, I don't know how I couldn't work like that.
No, there's no way I can.
No, it's all cover your ass and hop on the train that's going to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. You were saying you were working on a Burger King commercial.
My phone was ringing there.
Oh.
So you back?
What's that?
Oh, now I hear you again. Okay. So I was doing a Burger King radio commercial. Well, it was a TV commercial, but it was voiceover. And they were doing a promotion where you bring a coupon from any fast food restaurant, they will give you a free Whopper. And the commercial was, I said, if you bring in another voice, if you bring in a coupon, they'll take it for any restaurant. Any restaurant? And then I start naming all these restaurants fast. So they asked me, well, how many can you do? I said, well, it's going to be just a voiceover, so you really should do like 5 to 6 words a second. That would be sound really fast, but people will hear what I'm saying. Well, they thought that meant 5 to 6 fast food restaurants a second. So Wonderful Wally Waxman's World of Waffles counted as 1. Shit. I was out on a press tour at the time. They kept sending the script to the town I was in the day before. So if I was in Cleveland on Tuesday, the script arrived on Wednesday. Cincinnati on Thursday. Just finally, I get to New York. It arrives at my door. I get there at like 6 o'clock at night from traveling, and it's like a phone book. And I called them. I said, I can't read all these words. What are you, crazy? Well, you told us 6. I said 6 words, not 6 restaurants.
Right.
So they're going to do a whole new version. So I go to the recording studio the next day, and the Burger King girl, who's in the commercial, who keeps going, through the whole thing, is not there. She's late. So the engineer, who I had worked with several times before, and there's this little these control rooms are teeny. There's 14 people from the ad agency crammed into this room.
Wow.
So the guy says, well, instead of just sitting around, why don't we just have John read the list? Oh, we really want to have the interaction of the girl and blah, blah, blah. So let him just do the list a couple of times. So I went in and I read the list of all these different Arby's, Hardee's, Denny's, Benny's, whatever. The girl finally gets there. She has been in a subway fire.
What?
She's frazzled. It's her first professional job.
Oh, no.
Oh, the poor girl.
They stick us in this booth, facing each other, inches apart. And, hey, puss, I just kicked mine to get him out of here. He was getting
She
ready
had to
start.
say hello. Sometimes you just can't stop her. She had to say hello. Sorry.
Well, hello. Got to do what you got to do. This is her house.
I guess. I just live here.
So the girl, the idea of the commercial was she's supposed to come in at certain times and do her
Right.
and she's trying to listen to me and come in just at the right time. Well, of course, they don't want her to go when I'm saying McDonald's because that's a big thing.
Right.
And she's coming in at all the wrong times. She can't get the timing right. And she's panicking and she's already upset and already intimidated and already what. And they keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And, you know, I said, well, what? Let's just do her separately, do me separately. Then you put it together. You can stick it wherever you want. No, we have to have that thing. Maybe she's too intimidated because you're too close. So they put me in another studio. And now she's in one studio. I'm in another studio. So we do that for 2 hours. And, you know, no, that's not working either. And then the most professional of all the 14 people who had showed up, who was the most vociferous about how we had have everybody in the room at the same time, said, hey, I have an idea. What if we record John and then we record her and we put him together? Well, I thought the technician was gonna, I just thought he was gonna, the engineer was just gonna kill the guy, but he just said, oh yes, let's try that. So I went in, I did 2 runs at the list. And then they did 2 runs of her going, The guy put it together, 20 minutes, commercial's done.
And you had just suggested that.
Right. We had suggested that hours beforehand, but now it's his idea, so it's a good idea.
Sure.
So
oh my God.
Now it's done. It's all put together, and this starts. You know, I like the way he said Hardee's, but I don't like the way he hit Arby's. Oh, gee, Arby's bothered you? That didn't bother me. I didn't care for the way he said Denny's. And I just looked at him. I said, you know what? You got 4 fucking hours of Arby's, Hardee's, Denny's, Benny's on the recorder there. You find the Benny's you like, you find the Arby's you like. I am out of here. I am not reading that friggin' list one more time.
Oh,
pay me and kiss my ass.
Damn. This is not what this was a 20-minute job. This was not a 4-hour job.
Wow. Jeez. I had no idea the business was. I mean, I've heard stories, but Jesus, that's some cutthroat stuff.
I was doing a commercial, and in the next studio, it's the same advertising agency. They were doing Wilford Brimley doing the oatmeal commercial.
Oh yeah.
And the guy said to me, who was the one of the people on my staff, who was from the company, not the agency, said, "Oh, you got to come see this." So I go into the next, he comes in, pleasant as could be, says hello to everybody, sits down, they do a take, they go cut. He says, was that to time? And they go, yes, it was perfect. He goes, I ain't getting better than that. And he got up and left. And he looked at me and says, when you're Wilford Brimley, you can do that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the first couple of spots they did with him, they had him there probably saying the same fucking oatmeal line over and over and over and over again. He finally just said, I'll do more, but I'm leaving. You know, that's it.
Sure. Oh. Have you ever heard the Orson Welles reading the Peas commercial outtakes online?
Oh, yes. Very funny.
God, they're hysterical. I love them. Maurice LaMarche, when he was on the show, read that whole thing in that voice.
Yes.
We had us in stitches, but man, yeah, what a business. I don't know if I could work there. But so many more things I'd love to ask, but we're running out of time. So there's one last thing. We were led to believe that you're busy at work on something. What that something is, we have no idea. But is it anything you're allowed to talk about, allowed to share with us, or NDAs in flux?
Well, one thing is, everybody loves that now. They love having the non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
So one is an NDA. I'm doing another thing, a short film called The Composer, where I play a guy in an assisted living Alzheimer's unit who is losing it, and he thinks he was a famous composer, but you don't really know if he was or he wasn't a composer. and it's a neat little film. We just did some of the pre-stuff, so we're shooting that next month. And then, you always hear about stuff comes up, and then, the kiss of death is usually talking about it, because as soon as you tell somebody, it's like, oh, by the way, that's not happening anymore, and this happened, that happened, so you never know. So
yeah, we practice that heavy around here. Like, we do not dare talk about who we're going to possibly get on the show until you have it in the pocket, because every single time it doesn't happen. So I should have taken that into account when asking you that. I apologize.
Well, no, I mean, if it was something I could really talk about, I would, but it's just, and nowadays people, they're so, I get, first of all, ever since it's COVID, you audition at home now. You don't talk to a human being anymore. Everything is pre-recorded. If it's a voiceover for a cartoon or a commercial, you do it on your, you just record it and send it. If you have to film it, if it's for a TV show or a movie or whatever, and you don't ever get to have human interaction or anything like that. And it just really, really sucks. And there was a point to why I was telling you this, but because I'm old and people, I can't remember why I was talking about that. But it was something very profound, I'm sure.
Yeah, you were just talking about NDAs and stuff you can't talk about.
Oh, yeah, these stupid commercials. They send you a voiceover for a commercial for like the 99-cent store.
Right.
And, you got to sign before you can even look at the script. You've got to sign all these things. And you sign all these non-disclosures, and then you see the script, and the line is, "They've got everything for Easter."
Thank God that didn't leave.
Yeah, right.
They really do have everything for Easter. It's
Black
like
Friday sales.
Yeah, can you imagine if that line had leaked before it actually
serious?
Yeah, really.
That on social media, no one's getting in.
No, people they're serious about their shit now. I'm telling you.
Yes, they are.
Don't you want the Dollar King to steal that line from the 99-cent store?
An NDA must have been like an ad person thing. Like, what would make this better? Making people not talk about this.
Yes.
I don't know when those came along, but
well, it all started with all these like superhero movies and the TV shows that had, continuing story where people would leak the scripts, and then it'd be online and everybody knew what was going to be happening. So they did that, and then they just went overboard with doing it for everything, which is ridiculous.
Say David, what was it? David Prowse, who was Darth Vader in the original Star Wars. He had accidentally, just in a joking way on a Tonight Show, promoting Empire Strikes Back, saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to find out that Darth Vader's Luke's father." Just being a smartass, but it actually, was obviously what was in the script. And George Lucas wasn't too happy. I imagine he wished he would have had some kind of NDA.
Yeah, no, I have a friend who just did Picard, and
Nice.
she also did a new Disney series that's coming out. And they had her so scared that, like, she was afraid she was going to say something in her sleep, and they were going to come, take her to NDA prison. It was crazy. Yeah. And she was in the last 2 episodes of Picard, and she couldn't talk until 12 hours after the episode aired for the first time. Then she was free to speak of everything.
Wow.
It's like crazy.
The rules in play, right? Yeah, and the scripts, I think, are color coded. Have your names watermarked on them. That way, you know who to blame if one gets out.
Or handcuffed to you.
Well, she auditioned. When she auditioned for both of the parts, they didn't tell her what the show was, and they didn't send her the actual lines. They had her reading other lines and wouldn't tell her anything about the character. So it's like, well, how do you even audition for that?
How do I know I want to do this one?
Right.
Send in a video of yourself
what it is, what
Oscar
the lines
Mayer
are, when it's filming. It just
crazy.
Wow. Damn.
I don't know if I want to do that job anymore.
Yeah. John, thank you so much for taking time to be on our show again tonight. This has been fantastic. You've been very generous with your time and your stories. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys. All right. Now, how the fuck do I get out of here?
We'll jettison you loose. Don't worry.
All right. Take care.
Later.
See ya. All right, everyone, and once again, that was our conversation with John Moschitta Jr., the Micro Machines man. How cool to talk to him, and how cool to hear him actually talk that fast. I remember when we originally recorded this episode, after it was done, we'd sit around here trying to talk as fast as him, and it's just not doable. Not doable. We got pretty fast, but not that fast. Not as fast as the world's fastest talker. So big thanks to, once again, to John. It's been a little while since this one was recorded, so maybe it'd be cool to get him back and just see what he's been up to in the meantime. But other than that, just need to remind you guys, don't forget to find us on our socials listed above and on the website right here. And also, if you want to support the show, a few different ways you can do that. Go to cannedairpodcast.com. There's a merch tab where you can buy t-shirts, mugs, hats, hoodies, stickers, all that kind of stuff with the Canned Air logo on it, and designs that were designed by Joshua Bellis that are pop culture inspired design. So there's like a Canned Air G.I. Joe shirt, a Canned Air Ninja Turtles shirt, a Canned Air Simpsons shirt. I'm trying to remember what else. All kinds of different pop culture Canned Air themed shirts on there. So check those out. And then there's our Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/CannedAirPod, you can support us there. $5 a month gets you access to 4+ years of content we've been working on. Tons of content. Hours worth. You can't possibly watch it all in a month. So I think it's worth every bit of that $5, but guess that's up to you guys. And if you don't have the money to support us, a few different ways you can support us all the same. Leave a comment, hit subscribe, hit the like button. If you listen to our podcast on Spotify or Apple, leave a comment there. Leave us a review. That stuff helps so much. And once again, huge thanks to the network that is always supporting us, Evergreen Podcast Network. So check them out along with the other great shows on there. And I think that's all I have for you guys. So thanks so much for watching. And until next time, I am Jeremy Colley. Be excellent to each other.